Welcome back to another edition of the Down and Back of CornDoug. This week, great show for you this week. ACL Pro Eric Tscherne on the show. Had a fantastic talk with him. He's just wealth of knowledge in where the sport is growing, how it can grow more, and even just get better with regards to sponsorship and just promoting players. We talk about promoting your brand, talk about where he started throwing, how he did at the Open this past weekend. We run the gamut of all of his cornhole stuff and more. So much more about him that that you'll learn, find out about, and yeah, just a great interview. Had a lot of fun. So getting the show stuff here, making sure you're hitting that like, hitting that subscribe button, especially that like down below. And even if you're listening to the audio portion, if you're just listening at home, head over to YouTube. You got some time, head over to YouTube. Just give it a like, give it a subscribe. That's all you need to do. It takes like 2 minutes. Looking for the Down and Back on YouTube. And yeah, you can just help with the show that way. Give us, any kind of feedback. Let us know what you like, what you don't like. You want me to stop talking, whatever you want me to do. It doesn't matter. Just any kind of feedback would be great. And then you can head over to the Facebook page, hit that shop now button. You can get yourself Down and Back t-shirts, hoodies, sweatshirts, and even the other special I'm Down with CornDoug t-shirts. Helping the show that way in any way you can. Much appreciated. And speaking of helping the show any way you can, sponsors. Can't do anything without the sponsors, being OctaneCornhole.com. Check out all the stuff Matt's got there for Octane, whether it's the 420 bags, which are still available till the end of the month. I think the golf bags, the one with the ball, which the dimples look just it looks like your cornhole bag actually has dimples on the ball. That, and then also the cornhole hole flag bags as well too, so you can get a full set of 8 bags. So I guess you're getting 2 sets because you think it's set of 4, but whatever, you get 8 bags out of the deal. Fantastic. You can check out all his other t-shirts, all his stuff he's got on there on OctaneCornhole.com, and you can use the discount code CornDoug to get yourself 10% off. And then, as always, when you're done there, head over to myearfun.com, get yourself a set of earbuds, or now the speakers can be shipped to Canada. There was a little bit of an issue with them, but now we've got that fixed, and it's they're now shipping the speakers up to Canada. And with that, you use the discount code CornDoug, get yourself 20% off of any of the stuff you buy off of there. I know a couple people up here have already went and took advantage of that there, and they're loving the stuff that they have as well. The Earfun Pro that I have, just fantastic. I'm using them all the time. I love them. So that, and then when you need boards, you head over to jccornhole.com. Check out Jamie's stuff, and he's even said there could be a discount code in the future coming up for CornDoug. We'll have to see about that because we all know how Jamie is. But anyway, that just having fun with that. So cornhole on the weekend. We had the Open in Quad Cities. I know last week I said Louisville was actually in Quad Cities. So if you went to Louisville looking for an Open, it wasn't there. It was in Quad Cities. So Tier 1 results, singles. Again, we keep talking about the singles in the Opens being the new guys just taking over, and that super rookie took down his second Open singles title. Matt Guy beat Ryan Windsor in the finals of the singles. I believe they had 2 Tier 1, an A and a B bracket for that there. Ryan Windsor winning the A, Matt Guy winning the B bracket of that there. They come together. Matt wins it, takes it over Ryan Windsor. And then in the doubles was a team that I've kind of seen on the radar, but just they haven't been having the big results. And they finally came through, got a big one, being Ty Lopez and Peter Zazueta. They take the doubles title. They beat Derek Singleton and Jeremy Schimmerhorn out of the Great Lakes Conference. I know both those guys finally, they were on a bit of a lull, and it seemed like they kind of put things together in Quad Cities and went on a big run, losing in the final to Ty and Peter. So congrats to Ty and Peter for taking down the singles in Quad Cities. And then that leads to This weekend coming up, Louisville. Louisville has an open this weekend, so be looking for any of the. Hopefully, a lot of people going live. I heard last weekend in Quad Cities, the Wi-Fi in the building wasn't up to par, so a lot of guys couldn't go live and broadcast. So there's that coming up in Louisville. Then a few weeks after that, Vegas, baby, hitting Vegas for the Bag Brawl, the ACL's next national event. So you'll be able to watch most of that on ESPN3 if you're in the lower 48. Yeah, so thinking what else is next? Not sure. We're gonna head to the interview process here. Like I said off the top, it was fun interview. I sat it one of those ones where you lose track of time because our ones will kind of cut the interview portion short a bit, but Eric Tscherne has just done so much and with so many people, and it's just it's amazing to see what people do outside the cornhole world. We see them just as ACL pros, seen them on the board, but checking the stuff out, and as you will find out, he's a Hall of Famer. Eric Tscherne is a Hall of Famer. We'll find out about that in the interview coming right up here. Here is Eric Tscherne. And here we have, as promised, Hall of Famer. We'll get to that in a little bit because there's not many of them in the cornhole world. Eric Tscherne. Eric, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Doug.
So you just got back from the Open that was held in Quad Cities. My last show, if you were watching it, I said it was in Louisville, but it was actually Quad Cities. But how'd that go for you?
It went great. It was the first Open event. My second event using the Rounders format. I qualified to be a pro through the Rounders process down in Rock Hill last summer. And we had a good time. I wasn't playing my usual pro partner. I was playing with Johnny Rocket. So we went there, just to kind of put an Open under each of our belts. Our conference tournament is coming up on the 23rd, 4th, and 5th of this month in the West. So we just wanted to get one under our belts, also put it in the standings for placement and seeding at our conference tournament, and qualified for tier 1, kind of ran out of airmails, ran out of pushes. When the bracket started, but overall had a great experience there. Josh and Brian put on a great event. It was really, really fun.
Yeah, I've had fun watching the Opens because everyone thinks that's going to be all the pros in tier 1. And even at this last one, now you've seen some pros that are down in the bottom I find that it's really setting off that ACL, anyone can play, anyone can win model, because it's, of course, that super rookie again won the singles in the last one here, but it's kind of always been like the new players winning the singles at least.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that's really great at the Opens is the anyone can play, anyone can win. I think the ACL wants us as pros playing regionally, playing in our conference tournaments, playing nationals. And the nationals are nice, but right now, especially with COVID, they're pro only events. So, if you're going as a non-pro player, you're going to watch. And with COVID, there hasn't even been that opportunity. Unlike the nationals of the past, where the pros were playing alongside of you and you could watch them really up close, play with them in Crew Cup, in some blind draws. You don't really have that experience today unless you have a pro in your area. When you travel to one of these big Opens, you're right there. You're playing with the best of the best. Matt and Brett Guy were out at this one. Some of the top names. We had, Ultra had a good portion of its team out there, and we did pretty well. You really got a chance to go toe-to-toe with pros. And with the Rounders format, anyone gets matched up with the pros. It's really interesting. My partner and I think we were 2-2 or 2-3 at one point in time in the Rounders format. And we were running into some guys that I'm pretty sure were ended up in tier 3 and 4. So they played us, right? And then we worked our way. Our last match, we played 8 matches in Moline this past weekend in the Rounders format. And our last match made a big difference. We were 4-3 at that point. Needed to win that match. We knew the cut line was going to be at 5-3 based on what we heard. And we knew we had to win, and we knew we had to play well in that. And ultimately, we qualified in, I think, as the last team in Tier 1. While there were several teams at 5-3 with different point differentials that were still in Tier 2. So,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, I was gonna say I kind of heard that there was that 5-3 was a real cutoff where there were some people who were down who ended up going down below, but
Mhm.
that just shows just how good the talent is at all these ACL events.
Yeah, I mean, the talent top down is great, and I mean, I'd like to see more people get out there and experience it, because I think throwing bags, you hear people say, oh, you know, I'm a good player, but I don't have a good partner. I don't want to step up for whatever reason. This is an opportunity for you to play against the best. You'll see where you stack up with the best, and you get to see the best bags thrown. If you were a Tier 3 or 4 player and you stuck around and watched the Tier 1 guys play doubles and singles, you saw a lot of strategy. You saw a lot of stuff going on in the game that competitive level players and intermediate level players don't fully grasp yet and utilize to their advantage when they play. A lot of really great, competent intermediate level players can put a lot of bags in the hole. You'll see guys with a high 4-bag average and quite a few bags put in the hole. But if a bag gets in front of them, they don't know what to do with it, or they don't know what to do if their opponent can out for them and they don't have a block and they don't know how to slow the game down or change and control the pace. Those are things that the Open lets you see the top end players execute. When I was in Wichita, I watched Cody Henderson. He masterfully controlled the pace of a game against a player, a friend of mine. And I felt bad because I saw this player really wanting to throw. He was right up at the line, ready to go, and he wanted to throw his bag in the hole. And Cody took his time. And I wouldn't say that Cody was going over the 20 seconds, but he used a good portion of it each time. And he may or may not have been doing it on purpose, but he certainly controlled the pace of the game. His throw started when he wanted it to, and he wasn't waiting to throw, and it played to his advantage. And you get to see pros utilize techniques and skills like that you know, you might not see other players do at your local level. And those are techniques you can adopt yourself. So really, even if you don't intend to play at an Open, coming to see an Open and see those bags being thrown is a huge value to you as a player, if that's what you want to do, is get better.
Yeah, and I think guys like Cody Henderson, because you didn't see him play too much of the virtual stuff. I think that's where COVID has kind of changed the game a bit, where everyone started playing the virtual stuff, where you don't have that dirty board, whereas that block, you're able to get those 4 bags in and an open board all the time. And I think that's what we're starting to kind of see a bit coming back, where some players have to get used to that, playing on that dirty board again, where they're not
Yeah.
used to it.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be very honest about my own play myself. I was a very good virtual player. I made a bit of my name in virtual, not necessarily using the ACL software as much during that time. A lot of Scoreholio, especially on the West Coast. I played it a lot because it let me talk to my friends. You know, we'd throw a tournament together, and we would, you know, during COVID, it was like, oh, I'm with all my friends, but I'm on my side yard, right?
Yeah.
I'm throwing back. And we had a blast. I learned very quickly that having your bags in front of the hole was about the worst thing you could do in virtual. You don't really want to hit a hard push from the board, or a 5 or 6 inch push even. You want your bags in the hole, on the lip, mostly in the hole, or out of the way. So one bag in the upper left, you didn't necessarily go chase it. Just throw the 10. You don't really want to turn it into an 8. Just throw the 10 and then throw another round, right? Virtual has a different set of rules, and guys who figured those rules out quickly built their games around it. But those rules don't necessarily apply in cornhole against another player. So yeah, definitely seeing live bags from another player, stuff in the way, somebody controlling your pace of throw. You know, when you could be a rhythm thrower, throw your 4 in, walk down, throw 4 in, boom, 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 boom. You know, guys can do that really well, especially top end players. They get really used to warming up and practicing like that. But the reality is, now when I go to a big tournament and I'm practicing, I'm looking for Particularly, I look for other Team Ultra players from outside of my local area, and I'm like, hey, can I throw at you? Derek and Jeremy from Michigan, can I go throw
Mhm.
at you guys? Like I would like to play with Bob Vaunch or Danny Seals. Like I just work my way around all the guys, Bernasette and Tom. I work my way around all the guys and go, let me get some games with you because I'm going to see some different styles. I'm going to see different ways they use those bags. And they're going to force me to think and throw.
Yeah, I think the other thing is getting back live is having that person on the other side of the board. Because I know that Jamie Cowan here, one of our local players, I was talking to him at the Octane Garage. He was like, he was almost wanting to do like a cardboard cutout of somebody and just have them on wheels and bring them back and forth with them, just to have that presence of someone right there with you.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely different than throwing by yourself. I'll be honest. I've been stepping in and out of the box as of lately, especially after I saw Cody. I've been sort of stepping at least away from the line, not necessarily out of the box completely. But you saw Bernasette employing a tactic like that, and I'm looking at it a lot like a pro baseball player stepping in and out of the box. Albert Pujols, great baseball players. They always have a routine between every pitch. They got to hit their cleats 3 times. Adjust their batting gloves. Like I'm learning to find my rhythm and where my throw starts, not necessarily dictated by the player next to me. But I also find that if I step away from the line, the guy next to me occasionally is like, what's he doing? Where'd he go? Right? Like, I'm not doing anything over here to bother you. I just stepped away from the line. I don't need to be there while you're throwing. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, yeah, it's a whole mind game that I love
Yeah.
with cornhole. That it's not just that easy throw the bags. And I keep always saying it that Timothy Pitcher said to me, you're either playing chess or you're playing checkers. It's it's that fun aspect.
Yep. Yep. And the guys who master that, master the mental side of it, those are the guys that are doing the best at the next level. And you'll see that at the Open. They're the ones, making their 4th bag. And you're like, I know that guy makes every 4th bag back home. And what's happening to him now? Well, now he's playing against the best of the best. And he's like, I played some games. The Open was good, as well as the 2 nationals. I'm playing longer games than I've ever played. When 2 guys who can throw 9, 10s, and 12s all the time are playing against each other, it's going to take a while to figure out, especially if they're just running them all up in the hole. It's going to take a while for that game to play out and for someone to win and someone to miss more than the other guy is what really ends up happening when you're playing in that style. And at the Open, you saw a lot of that because a lot of guys go in and they say, I don't have a whole lot of anything else. So I'm just going to run all my bags up in the hole. And if they're good at it, they can do it for a very long time. But they can get rattled because they're like, well, this guy next to me just keeps doing it too. When's he going to miss? Right. And before you realize it, you're missing because you're worried about when they'll miss. And so I think, the other side of it too is at that next level, it's about all that big game experience that makes you a better player. And the Opens provide that. The Opens as a format, I think, and I played a couple of nationals before COVID, and I've had some friends who played nationals 2 years ago, back when they used to mix the advanced and pros together. This is more like that, but it puts everybody together. And as Rounders starts to pan out over the course of the tournament, if you lose your first 2 games, you're probably not going to be seeing anybody who was in the tier 1 from that point on. It's unlikely that you're going to run into those kinds of players anymore. But you're still going to be playing good players from around. Somebody's going to run into the wrong draw early on. You could draw, Noah Wooten in the first game, Noah and Matt. You could draw them in the first game and go, well, how'd this happen? Well, it's blind in the first game. But the Rounders format, I think, really naturally separates the field of a tournament in a pretty fair way because you play those games as opposed to signing up and going, I'm sandbagging my way into competitive because I want to win some money. This doesn't allow for that. And there's not a lot of money as you drop down out of tier 1. So it's if you're there for the money, then you're there to win. And tier 1's where you're going to make the money. So.
Exactly. Yeah. So we know that you're in California now. Did you get your start back in Ohio where you were from?
I actually didn't pick up my first bag till about, my son is 13, and I picked it up in what is known as the Adventure Guides program in the YMCA. I picked up my first cornhole bag on a beach in California on a camping trip when my son was in first grade. So he must have been about 6 years old. It's about 7 years ago I picked up my first bag. Never played it in Ohio growing up all those years, 18 years in Ohio. Never played it. Never even knew it existed.
Yeah.
But at that first camping trip, bunch of dads who didn't necessarily know each other. Our boys were in school together. Or our wives signed us up for this program where we were going to go camping. And, in true dad fashion, if you put a game of skill out like that and have a lot of beer, you're going to eventually go, let's throw this thing in this hole and see who's better at it. And we started playing quite a bit from there. And that grew to playing, once a month when we would camp, to almost once a week we were playing in somebody's backyard, and then that became, let's throw a tournament in the neighborhood through a big Father's Day tournament. And then that became like, well, where else are they playing cornhole in San Diego? And for me, that's about the time where I went and played with the Dirty Bags guys out here, Mike Sorensen and his crew, Don Cornelius. We played with those guys. They were super nice, super friendly. I think I went like 2-1 in our pool play with my neighbor as a partner. Roger, who will tell us everybody he taught me everything, which sort of did. He did tell me to throw a flat bag. And, we went like 2-1 in our pool, got a free win. I think we went 2-1 or 2-2 in the bracket. I left there going, I'm coming back. So
I found that it's always it's that second game that you play. Once you start, it's that second game that gets you addicted to playing cornhole. And it's just, and like you say, once you have those performance enhancing beverages, you're just done. Like I had that double. For me, it was like, my first time playing infield of Charlotte Motor Speedway, cornhole and moonshine in the same night, and I'm just done.
Sounds great.
Right?
Sounds great.
So
yeah, I mean, I think, like you said, those defining little moments, your second game, those things that are addictive. One of the things that we did, the group that I play with that I founded is 4In. And we, on our boards around the circle of the board, it says 4In, sign the board. And I know that a lot of clubs have done it. We've always, when we first started playing with the Indian guides or adventure guides, we would sign the board if you got a 4In. So we'd go every weekend, like on Thursday and Friday when the dads would get together before we'd leave for camp. We'd be like, we're going to sign some boards this weekend. We're going to sign some boards this weekend. And we would really play to get that 4In, which was pretty rare with a bunch of backyard players and dads. It's not as rare now. In my leagues now, I actually have a separate board for people to sign that we sign each season and leave at the bar. But it's still, especially for the newer players joining our league, the first time they get to sign that board, and every time somebody gets to sign that board is still special because they're leaving their name on the wall at the brewery we play at. They're leaving their name on the on that that trophy that somebody gets to take home. So I think that those are always the things too. Is just you go to a big tournament, be realistic about what your skill level is and where you're going to finish, and find some goal that maybe just outside of your reach and see if you can get there. Right? Throw a 4-pack, throw 3 4-packs. Go. Don't go 0-2. Go 2-2. That's the other thing too, is like, you get in the field of tier 1 and, I wasn't necessarily bummed the way that we went 0-2 in both of the events. We made tier 1, which is hard enough. Half the field is going to go home 1-2 or 0-2. When you look at a field, if it's an evenly split field, 32 guys, after the first round, 16 people lose. They're playing, 8 of them go 0-2. That's a quarter of the field that goes 0-2. In the next round, everybody's 1-1 that's playing each other in the losers bracket, and another 8 are going home. And now you've got 16 people who went home either 0-2 or 1-2. It's not fun, but it's the reality of the tournament format.
Well, and I think just like you said, that you have to know your reality or your skill going into it, because like I always say, we went down in 2018. It was that in our first ACL finals down in Cherokee, with us being the top Canadian players up here. We're like, oh yeah, we're not going to be too bad. And then my regular partner, who was like the number one player up here, runs into like a 15-year-old Dalton McClem and just gets destroyed,
Yeah.
right? And it's like, holy cow! And then when one of my first games, I'm standing next to Ryan Smith,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I keep saying that if I would have had 21 more points, I probably could have beat him. But it's just that whole you got to go down with the reality of what could happen.
Yeah, and sometimes not knowing who some of the players are is great. I played at the World Championship for the first time last year, and we played in the Conference Cup. And I have some similar stories of looking down and pulling bags out of the hole. And at the time, I pulled out Josh Gross's bags, and I saw his name on there, and I was like, "Oh crap! I'm beating him 14-6." Right?
Yeah.
He then, I think, won 21-14, something along those lines. Of that game, was another testament to it, a long game. I had thrown a ton of 4-packs, and he had thrown a ton of 10s, and I was up 14, 2 at a time. It's just 7 4-packs, right?
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't throwing poor. And then I was not ready for what was going to be a 45-minute game to 21, 2 points at a time with a lot of walk. And I didn't realize it too. Like, I played Frank Modlin, and he didn't have his visor on. And it wasn't until Nick Renovitz's wife is like, "Hey, Frank." And I'm like, crap, I'm playing Frank Modlin.
Well, and I joked, I had Eddie Grimsley on, and I joked with him that he played the first, I guess, Facebook Live, or the first time against a Canadian player down at the finals that year in the Conference Cup.
Mm-hmm.
And the match lasted, I think it was about a minute 20 with Jamie Cowan here. We laugh about it because Jamie got him. I think the next round we had to play the Great Lakes, which is which was supposed to be our conference, and Matt, who was our team leader, got Ryan Windsor, and it was just like, do we even need to play?
Yeah, well, you got to play the games because you don't know what will happen. That's the other side of it too.
Yeah.
So
And
I watched
it's that learning experience.
Yeah, and I watched Matt Guy lose to it was maybe the first round, maybe the second round at the last Open in singles, and he went on to win it. He lost to someone who was out of Chicago. I can't remember the young man's name, but Matt wasn't happy about it. Then he played my friend Jody in the next game, and even on Instagram today, he was like, "Oh, I don't think I was very happy when that picture was shot. Hopefully, I wasn't too mean." And he wasn't. He was actually fine. He was very much like a pro. I think I could tell that he was not happy with his performance from the previous game, but he wasn't a jerk or anything. But he definitely didn't miss much against Joe. So again, that's everyone can play, everyone can win. If you play your game and you play it well, this is a sport where it doesn't matter if you're young, if you're old, if you're a man, if you're a woman. None of it matters. It just matters how consistent you are about putting your bags in the hole. Can't lose if you throw a 12. It's a dare to see if you start trying to get somebody to miss.
Yeah, and that's I find that's the hardest thing, is just trying to get that person to miss. It's because really once that person gets on that roll, it's there's almost nothing you can do about it, right? But
Yep.
But yeah,
I mean, and that's the other side of it too. Like, there are things you can try to do when somebody's on a roll. You can slow the pace down, speed it up, try to throw something in their way, take a timeout. I played with Johnny Rocket this past weekend, and Johnny Rocket is an interesting player. He does not have a pretty bag, but he can really throw it. He knows what his bag does, but he's really good at calling timeouts. This game is starting to get away from us. Timeout, right? Before it's too far gone. He's like, we have a timeout. We'll hate ourselves if we don't use it and we lose, right? Yep. So why not use it? If we use it and we lose, then, we lost, right? But, you have a couple of things you can use to try to cool people off. Don't be afraid to do it. It's interesting. I used a timeout one time in a local here at a brewery. I was playing with a very new player, and he was struggling, and I really wanted to get to the end. I was going to play Tyler Perrin if I got through this match, and I really wanted to play with Tyler. I went there to play with Tyler, and I wanted to get us there, wanted to will us there, and it was just not happening on the other end. And so my opponent, or my partner, when it was his turn, I was like, timeout, timeout, timeout. And our opponents were like, "What's going on? You're calling a timeout mid round?" And I'm like, "Absolutely, you're killing my guy over here. I'm totally going to take a timeout. I'm totally going to use all of the time in it, and then we'll get back to throwing." And we almost pulled it off. I think we managed to get back in that game before. Unfortunately, the bags weren't in my hand when we ended.
Yeah, the only thing is, as I would say, is when calling a timeout, make sure you know how many you've used or how many you have left, and not be like my good friend Mike Ferreira, who did it on against Sorrells and Wooten at the one. I think it was the national. I think it might have been a national that
Okay.
he called the extra timeout that they didn't have because they'd already used their timeout. But it's just it's just one of those things that he now knows, and he can have fun with it. But
oh yeah.
But speaking of the new players, there was, and we kind of talked about this before. There was a thing going on because everyone goes the Addicted to Cornhole group, and I'm not sure if you were able to make it clear because there was some people it's that playing with new players, and there you've got those new players that because they see you're a pro or a top player, there's sometimes they get that automatic feeling like I'm going to go far because I've got Eric as my partner.
Yeah, I mean, I was telling you earlier, I have that conversation quite a bit. It happens quite a bit where I play in a couple of pretty mixed locals, and I think a lot of top end players do as well, where, if you want to play, the local that's going on has players that are new all the way up to pros in it sometimes, and all kinds of players at all different levels, and probably more players at the lower levels than at the higher levels. And, I'll get a player who comes in and you see that wide-eyed look in their face of like, finally the gods have, aligned and you're my partner. And I'm like, yeah, you still got to throw your end of the board. So,
yeah.
There's only so much that I can do, particularly with my style. And, I'm not necessarily a guy who manufactures a ton of points. I put a lot of bags in the hole. If I'm going to manufacture a lot of points, that means I might give up some points, because as you try to throw blocks and work around it and hit accurate shots, the ability to pull those types of shots off, cornhole hole's 6 inches, but if you're trying to push a diamond block into the hole, your area for margin for error is a lot smaller than 6 inches. You've got to hit that bag in just the right spot to get that to go. And when you're trying to hit an airmail, it's a lot harder than a slide. Each of these shots is a lot less forgiving. So if you're trying to throw that style of a game in order to make up for your opponent or for your partner, it's difficult. So I'll tell my partners, like, can't be lazy. You can't get up there and throw lazy bags. I still need you to do what you do to get to where you were at. If you're a player who can average 6, I need you to average 6. You can't drop to 4. Because you want to watch me do something. It doesn't necessarily pan out if that's, how you work it. And that can be frustrating for me. That's probably what I was saying online, is that's the frustrating part, is people looking at me like, oh, you're going to carry me to, the promised land tonight. And I'll get players. I mean, I've played in some tournaments. It's tough when you have the pro badge on. I played in a tournament over the summer where I had some brand new players, fresh out of some backyard somewhere, and they drew me and heard I was a pro and, proceeded to throw like 4s. And I'm like, I'm still throwing against a really good player over here. You didn't ask what he was, He's throwing 10s. I'm throwing 12s. I can't, I'm not going to make a ton of points that way. If you're giving up 6s, it's going to be over pretty fast, and they'll come across and say, well, I thought you were a pro. And I'm like, yes, but this was doubles, wasn't singles.
Exactly. Yeah, and you know what? And we've even seen that up here, because we've got Jamie Cowan and Scott Sullivan who were able to play on ESPN. They beat the Australians and then ran into that small little Hisner and Henderson team. And when people up here say, "Oh, you're on ESPN, you're going to be awesome. I need you as my partner," and it's like, yeah, but it's just because I did that doesn't mean that we're going to win this blind draw.
Yeah. And especially when the blind draws, come together, if there's a wide gap, even if you're the best player in the blind draw and you draw one of the lower end players in the blind draw, two guys who are just below you might be partnered together, and it's going to be very difficult to beat that team. On paper, yeah, I could beat the one guy, but I'm probably beating him by a couple points around, maybe 1 or 2 points around. That's a big point differential. If you really look at point differential, which is probably a better indicator of a player's performance than just their points per round average. I know now with the ACL stats, everybody talks about points per round, but I do think point differential is a much more important indicator of how people play. Because if you're a high points per round guy and a low point differential, you're probably leaving the board really open. And guys are just pouring bags in the hole behind you if you're leading out, or you're just following them in the hole if you're, chasing them. If that's the kind of player you are, you're not going to be able to make up the difference, on the other side of the board. So, you do need to get a player's best game. And I don't want to put too much stress on them, but, everybody comes for cornhole for a different reason. I'm learning when I go to my local, when it's a more mixed bag of players, to go with a smile on my face and try to have as much fun as I can have. But at the same time, as a competitive player, a guy with that competitive drive, a lot of times that fun is based on your ability to play in good games, long games, and likely win more than you lose. So that's sometimes the frustration of playing with a newer player, of them not understanding, like, I like to win these games. I'm standing to a guy that I like to win, like to play against, like to win. I would like for you on your end to do the best you can so that hopefully I can pull it out. So I think that's really.
And it happens everywhere. But also the other thing I also want to talk about is kind of where we had kind of really started getting kind of messaging back and forth was Mike Morton had put something about rule changes, and everyone is doing like, the step rule, this rule, that rule. And the one that I seen you come up with, I thought I've actually had in my head for a while watching players, and that was dress code, right? Because, we now have pro players. I think we need to look like pros.
I do too. I think when that post went up, I happened to be watching the Masters. This was last week. I was watching the Masters. When I look at a pro golfer, he looks like a pro golfer. He doesn't look like an average golfer who's, coming in from, in shorts and maybe a unironed shirt. Those guys are put together. They think about what they wear. They think about how they present themselves. They think about how they present their sponsors. It's a very professional way of playing that sport. And there are simple differences of rules. Like, I can wear shorts to my local club, but a pro golfer must wear pants. Someone somewhere decided that was a more professional look. They have to keep their shirts tucked in. Nobody says you have to do that when you're playing at your local club. If you watch the NBA and you watch all those players, they don't stop the game so guys can tuck their shirts in. But when there's a timeout or guys are shooting free throws, even the refs are telling guys, tuck it in, tuck it in, tuck it in, right? They do the same with the NFL. Those guys' shirts end up getting tucked back in. There are rules about how people present. And right now in cornhole, I mean, it's a pet peeve of mine. That's why I posted it, because, different than some of the other rules, and we can get into the step over rule or some of the various other rules that were talked about in that post. The dress code seems pretty easy, and I think it also will help, particularly on the pro side of things. It'll help grow the game financially for us. If we can present united that this sport isn't a bunch of guys showing up from their backyard and all of a sudden appearing on TV, still wearing whatever it is that they were wearing in their backyard, cut off jean shorts, whatever it might be, we will all make a little bit more money because the sport will appear to corporate America like a actual professional sport, as opposed to the best backyard tournament with the best players from the country, so that's where I come from with that.
Well, yeah. And I also think it then becomes part of your brand. Like, if you're, you want to be looking good as representing your brand, because you want those big sponsors to get to you. And for me, I've seen some players, the ripped jeans, and it's just, it's how how is that coming off to the new person just watching, thinking, is this supposed to be pro stuff on
Yeah, I mean, that's
ESPN
what
when
like, and I use the golf as another analogy. Like when I go play golf, I put on a collared shirt to go to the club. There's a set of dress codes that I must meet minimally to get on the course. And I think, as we go and as we want people to, act professional at tournaments, all of the etiquette, again, I played high school golf. That's where a lot of this stuff comes from for me. But even with bowling and other sports, there's an etiquette in there. If you're bowling and the two lanes that are shared next to each other between, there's no ball return between them. There's an etiquette as to which player is supposed to throw first if they both have the ball in their hand, right? So that, one's not coming out of the other guy's blind spot, right? You let one guy throw. And we all play at a lot of local blind draws. A lot of times there's a lot of tight courts. You want to be throwing maybe opposite direction of each other. I'm not taking 45 seconds to throw my bag when, if a guy next to me is stepping into my box, like, okay, I need to get into my spot to throw too. Let him throw his shot, then I'll throw my shot. So I think, as the game grows and gets a little bit more professional, it probably needs a little bit more of that structure. And I think it starts with dress code, to your point of, as soon as I show up at a tournament, I show up ready to play. If I look and feel like I'm ready to play, it's going to set the tone for the entire day. Whether we're all going to drink a lot of beers and have a lot of fun is fine. But we're not at a concert. We're not at a tailgate anymore. We're at an open. We should be dressed like we're there to put in that work and have that kind of a day.
well, exactly. And the other thing that I talked with Matt at the Octane Shop about was that you watch the games and you see the players, everyone's got their black and their white jerseys,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then you see the teams that are all mixed, and it's like, so some of the new people watching, okay, who's paired with who? It's almost like, if you're wearing your black, the partner should almost be kind of coordinate with each other.
They're supposed to be. They're
Yeah.
supposed to be. Honestly, the reason we have a white jersey and a black jersey is that ideally for television, if it's doubles, one team would be in the white jerseys and one team would be in the black jerseys. We should have large enough difference in contrast between the two bags that we're throwing. So you shouldn't see red on orange because that's difficult to tell on television. The ACL, I suspect, will begin to enforce that more. It's tough. It's tough to get a guy who gets to the final and to lose on a coin flip on the bag you've been throwing all day, to go, well, how come my orange isn't, I can see the difference between my orange bag and my opponent can see the difference with red. My opponent, the TV people at home don't need to see us in matching jerseys. I think it does present better if you do. I do miss the old jerseys where there was a little bit more color in them. There were a little bit more options because I do think, seeing a purple team and a red team and a green team is a little more exciting than seeing, everybody wearing a black jersey with the same logos on it, or everyone wearing the white jersey with the same logos on it. And we all know black is more slimming. So most of us who don't do a whole lot of sit-ups are probably, prefer to wear the black jersey if we ever make it to the show. But I think the sport would benefit as it moves forward to, thinking about that stuff more and how it presents on TV. As we talked earlier, and we get more into my background, it's a pet peeve of mine because it's what I do. I'm a designer by trade, an industrial designer, toy designer, cartoons. So color, all of that way stuff presents on television. I have a lot of experience there. So these are opinions that are sort of rooted in my experience, and they're sort of nitpicky, but it's the kind of stuff that keeps a designer up all night and thinking about how can I make something look better? How can I make something work better? So.
Mm-hmm. Well, and then getting into your other background is the thing that I seen, and like as soon as I seen it, I messaged my cousin right away because it's like we're both NASCAR fans, we're both big diecast collectors, and Hall of Famer in the Diecast Hall of Fame.
Yeah, so fresh out of college, 1999, I moved to California to work at Hot Wheels at Mattel. I spent about 5 years working for Hot Wheels. Designed lots of different cars. That's why I'm in the Hot Wheels Hall of Fame, Diecast Hall of Fame. I took that and worked for a couple of other diecast companies afterwards. I worked for Jada Toys. And then I went on to work for a company out of Chicago that owned Johnny Lightning. Today it's Tomy. Johnny Lightning is now, they sold him back to playing Mantis, which is now Round 2 toys. But overall, I spent a lot of years. I thought I was going to be a car designer when I was growing up. The reality is I don't think I ever really wanted to grow up. I think cars, when I was about 15 or 16 years old, were really just toys for bigger kids. And when you're 15, 16 years old and you're trying to get a girlfriend and impress the other sex, still playing with GI Joes isn't going to get it done. So let's play with Camaros and Mustangs and try to impress them that way, maybe. So went to college, thought I was going to do that. Ended up designing diecast cars. I've loved it ever since. It's taken me around the world. I've traveled all over the place. Signed a lot of autographs. It's super fun. I still design a lot of toys, a lot of toy cars. Do a lot of consulting these days in vehicles for television and vehicles across toys. It's kind of my thing.
Well, and then you say television. Once we can get you on ESPN for Cornhole, that won't be your first time on television either. Because I then seen your other thing where you've worked on the Street Tuner Challenge, Monster Garage. It's not some small shows.
No, I've had some luck. There's been some opportunities presented to me over the years. I did do Monster Garage. I did an episode of that. My grandmother, God bless her, she's no longer with us. Immediately got a phone call from her afterwards because I think I said open a can of whoop ass. But I was standing next to Jesse James. Like,
exactly. Yeah.
Cool. I was also like 23 years old, so it's been fun. I've had a lot of really fun opportunities to be on TV, to be a part of that stuff. The last diecast project line that I worked on was Chip Foose's diecast line. So I worked a lot with Chip and his team on overhauling their line of diecast vehicles, which was pretty fun because Chip's drawings were some of the drawings that I thought I kind of mimicked that style as I was moving in. So getting to work with him and becoming friends with him, still friends with him to this day, were kind of life dreams come true.
Exactly. Yeah. And then the other thing that you worked on is, I think every cornhole player now with a young kid is going to be on you, because your other big thing was working on Paw Patrol.
Yeah, I mean, I'm waiting for like Ian Cripps or some of these young guns to actually ask for my autograph because they're probably watched Paw Patrol. Yeah. Wherever Trevor Caballero is, he's probably actually with his little brother, maybe still watching it. I don't know. I did get to help create Paw Patrol. Worked for Spin Master, toy company up there in Canada. Some great people. I was there for almost 10 years, and in the role of design director for preschool, we helped birth Paw Patrol. An interesting idea that came from Keith Chapman overseas. There were 4 or 5. It was a relatively small team of people who were working on it within Spin Master. I had some great colleagues working on it alongside of me. Jennifer Dodge, Todd Cass, Adam Ostegard. And we really helped birth that show along with Guru Studios out of Canada as well, as where we were producing that show. I drew a lot of the vehicles personally. Again, that was my experience coming over from being a Hot Wheels guy and bringing that kind of sense of style, making things look a little bit cooler and a little more hard edged than a traditional preschool show was at the time. The transformation was something that we were famous for at Spin Master with Bakugan. So we kind of applied that into the puppies and their backpacks. You see all these cool tools popping out, and we kind of mixed together a lot of stuff that we knew would work in toys, and worked together along with the writers. We worked really, really closely with Jamie Whitney, who was the director on the show. And I can't remember the woman's name who was the main writer right now, which is disappointing, but I know if she ever sees this, she'll know I was really thinking of her. we worked together really closely with the writers and all these crazy toy ideas and we threw a whole bunch of stuff up on the wall. And we're like, it'd be so cool if Chase did this. And they would look at us crazy. And then ultimately we'd see some scripts down the road going, oh, we think we might be able to make it do this. And we're like, cool. Right. And we worked really, really closely back and forth with them to really create something special that kids are enjoying, 6, 7, 8, 9 years later. That was probably one of the biggest accomplishments of my life was being able to help create that show. Being a kid who grew up on He-Man and Transformers and Star Wars, all these big properties that were sort of integrated with toys and entertainment. I always thought, that would be the pinnacle, would be to create something like that. And so to have that opportunity for Ben and Anton and Renan to offer me that opportunity, I'll be forever grateful for that.
Well, you probably got some royalty dollars off of all the stuff I had to buy for my
I got
son.
a nice check. But they took very good care of me. I do not get any royalties.
But yeah, so we go from that and cornhole sponsors. So what sponsors do you have that are on the jersey?
So on my jersey, being here in San Diego, and with all that experience in life, right? I'm 46 years old. I worked for Upper Deck for a little while, so I was in the sports world. At Bell, I worked on a lot more than toy cars. I worked in Supercross and the action sports side of things with Tony Hawk and Bucky Lasek and Bob Burnquist. I worked with Jeremy McGrath, who's like one of the greatest legends of Supercross, a San Diego-based guy. I worked with all of those guys in the early 2000s. Then I worked in the 2010 or so with the major NFL, NBA, Tiger Woods, Muhammad Ali, Michael Jordan at Upper Deck. So I kind of had a sense of how sponsorship worked. And when I came into Cornhole, I started as an advanced player with a couple of sponsors, local friends, mostly who were really just trying to help me out, give me a little bit of some money to travel. Miller Wealth Management, who I've been with for 2 years now, and who I'm helping him grow. He wants to be deeper in cornhole. So I've got him hooked up with Doug Zaft and Bill Hadley. I think he's doing something with Andrew Labrador now as he builds out in the cornhole community. I've been with them. He helped me out early. I was able to position myself with Rod well with the ROI. I, made some nice jerseys. I put his logo out there. Even as an advanced player, I spent the money to show him value. I made sure to buy him one. I put all of my partners in jerseys. I've had a lot of different partners as an advanced player. So I think I made like 10 jerseys, and just anyone who played with me, who helped me along the way, they were in a jersey that had his logo. That really helped me last year when I started looking for pro sponsors, and I started making those calls. I was making those calls. It was about this time last year, even before I qualified. I was on the path. I knew that's what I wanted to do. And cornhole was the only thing on television that was live because of COVID. So I started calling around, and I went to my Rolodex of people that I've worked with in the past, and I started calling everyone and started my pitch. I had a document that I wrote. Here's what I could do for you. And I'll tell you, here's what I could do for you. If you're going to give me $3,000, if you're going to give me $1,000, here's what I can do for you. If you're trying to get somebody to give you money so you can chase your fantasies, you're not going to find a lot of money out there. It's what can you do for them? And so if you build a pitch, if you build some materials, you can customize those materials for each sponsor. You can find people who are willing to spend some money with you for a variety of reasons. Today I have Camerata and Fuller Family Law, another player, but he enjoys sponsoring some players. I have Horvath Electric, which is out of Cleveland, Ohio, big electric company. I have some friends who own that. My brother-in-law, my sister, they've been able to come in and help me there. Ultra has come on board. Mark and the team there has taken very good care of most of the players here in Southern California that are at the pro level. And I've been throwing Ultra bags since that first Dirty Bags tournament years ago. I did meet Mark there, and I met a guy named Kyle Larson. Kyle generously let me play in a brewery with his white. At the time, they were labeled Psychos, so these are very old bags from the early days of Ultra. But he let me and a random guy play with his white bags in a brewery. I still don't ever understand why he let us do that. And we had such fun. I was like, I'm hooked. I'm always going to buy Ultra. He's local. Why not support him? So I've been with Ultra now for, as a player for a long time, but as a sponsored player for a couple of years now. And then I have a couple of other smaller sponsors. I have cornholeshirts.com, which is a business that I run doing jerseys. And then I have Simple Vision AV, which is a local neighbor friend who does technology installs in homes. So he automates very expensive homes here in Southern California, the ones that turn on and open their blinds and all their AV and music is all connected. He does all of that. So I think I covered everybody.
Well, and that then gets back to, we talked before about your brand and just that getting it, because there's so many times I see players out there that they go to get interviewed on ESPN or whatever, and it's just straight at the camera, one word answers, and it's just I think I don't know if the ACL has to do it or just some sort of training to help players along.
I'll tell you on a personal level, I've had a bit of that training. So being a Hot Wheels designer, Hot Wheels are highly collectible, and we would go to conventions and we had some media training. They told us what to say and not to say. We would go, before I ever went on a stage, somebody looked at what we were saying. We'd often rehearse. In my role in designing toys, I would do these big sales meetings every year. Us and the marketing guys would get up in front of the sales force and present all the new ideas, and we'd have to get them excited. There's often a lot of song and dance. There's probably some videos I'd hope never make it to the internet of skits. And if you've ever seen like those Bill Gates skits from, big sales conventions, there's stuff like that I've done. I've learned to get over those butterflies and learned how to talk in front of people. And then, I know you're a NASCAR guy. You were talking about NASCAR, and, it's not unlike Supercross, but Jeremy McGrath, when he would win a race, he was talking about Monster and Yamaha, and he knew in his head, I got to get the 5 or 6 guys. I got to say those names. Boom, 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 boom. If you watch those guys talk, especially the guys who do it well, Jimmy Johnson, Jeff Gordon, Dale Jr., they rip through their big sponsors really, really quickly, right? They know, and if you stick around long enough, you'll watch them take pictures, right? So the whole team takes a picture with the winning car. Then they all change hats and take a picture.
Then they hat dance.
Why? Because sponsor 1 wants a picture with their hat. Sponsor 2 wants a picture with their hat. Sponsor 3. So if you're really doing this professionally, you have to think like that. You have to learn when you get on camera how to make sure you're thanking not just your girlfriend or your son, but you're actually thanking the guys who are paying you to do this for a living, or at least for somewhat of a living. You have to learn how to hit those points. So I do think the ACL could benefit at some point from some sort of rookie symposium, which probably needs to include everybody for the first year or two. When I worked at Upper Deck, we used to actually go shoot the rookie symposiums for like the NFL and the NBA. So the NFL is famous. They get all their rookies to come to New York. The NBA gets all their rookies to come to New York, and they get to hear all the stories about, how to manage their money. They get all the ex-coaches come across the stage. It's a big seminar for a long weekend up there. And we used to shoot it because we used to get everybody in their jerseys and shoot all those trading cards. We'd get them all together and we'd shoot everything and get those first trading cards of Kevin Durant, and sign all these guys to deals. It's important at some point that the ACL starts to think about that, because I think it will grow. It will grow the sport for everyone, to find that partnership, and how they invest in their players. And the investment in their players is a good investment in them, because the better that we present ourselves on shows like yours, like this one that we're on, on other podcasts, anything that these guys are on, even just a live feed on Facebook at this point in time, the more that we present ourselves as professionals, the more the league will look at as a professional league, as opposed to just a tournament organizer where people moan and groan daily about the payouts.
Yep. So I want to thank you for coming on here talking. I know that we are going to talk again at some point, and hopefully I can do it live if I can make it down to the World Finals. Because I always tell Trey it can't be a World Finals if Canada isn't there. So hopefully I've got my one shot. I got to get another shot, and hopefully I'll be able to cross the border and be able to get and actually talk to you live.
Yeah, I would love to see that. You're also always welcome to come to San Diego if you want to come out here. We've got an open coming up. I think it's the last one of the year on June 9th, 10th, and 11th. It's going to be a great time. I know Ultra's involved, Santa Clarita Cornhole, Santa Clarita Valley. Chris Plugs is working with Todd Kasicki as Chris is taking over the conference directorship with Joseph Fields out here in the West. They've got a huge event planned for that open. It's going to be a really, really fun time. So any players that want to come out to San Diego in June, SeaWorld is like 3 miles down the road. The beach is right there. And the Town and Country is probably one of the best hotels I've ever stayed at to play cornhole. It's going to be a great time.
Exactly. So I may have to hit you up next. I know my cousin, he's always wanted me to go to California with him when he does this music stuff. So I may have to tag along with him and then maybe come and see you.
That'd be awesome. That'd be awesome. Okay. Thank you.
Again, Eric, thanks for coming on.
Awesome. Thank you.
How's that for an interview with Eric Tscherne? Thanking him so much for coming on and talking with me. It was just great to find out, like I said off the top there. It's just the finding out what guys do, what they're like away from the boards, and all that sort of stuff is just, great to see all the stuff that he's done working with Hot Wheels, being in the Diecast Hall of Fame, to some of the other stuff he's worked on with the other TV shows, being the Street Tuner Challenge, Monster Garage, just working with great people like that. I think that's where I'd said, he's kind of got that wealth of knowledge that the ACL could really use, or even take advantage of some of the stuff that he's done in the past to maybe bring in some other bigger sponsors, or even, players. Just go talk to him, pick his brain about, what sponsorship stuff, what you need to do to get that sponsor. I know I've seen him giving out tons of advice on Facebook here in the last little bit. So, hit him up on Facebook or see him in any of the stuff. But yeah, he's just great. Like I said, great individual. And for you guys that are now the young parents, or even, the younger kids playing, the Paw Patrol creator is in the ACL. So how about that? Yeah. So that's it. Another show this week. Like I said, I'm having too much fun doing these shows. Don't want this to stop. So keep doing it. Give that like, give that a subscribe, share it. Let other people know what's going on here in the cornhole world. We're up here in the north. We're kind of stuck. We're stuck in limbo here right now with COVID. So all we're able to do is watch all the people in the States playing live and getting all that stuff out. So head to Louisville this weekend, see some of the open stuff, or even stay home, check it out on Facebook Live. Hopefully a lot of players will be going live. Then after that, a couple more weeks, watch on ESPN, probably ESPN3, the Bag Brawl, the national tournament. And I think coming up here, I want to say, I think the following week, not next week, the following week, I know Trey Ryder and Bernie Neighbors are going to have their preview show again. I think they're doing the doubles on Monday, singles on Tuesday. You can check them out on the ACL Facebook page. I'll talk about that again next week. But yeah, so until next week, check out the shop now feature on the Facebook page. Hit the like, share, and subscribe. Hit up OctaneCornhole.com, MyEarFun.com, and then head to JCCornhole.com. Get yourself some great stuff. And as always, watch out for those guys throwing gas, because they might just kick your ass.